Hello and welcome to the Buckcast episode 21. Today's special guest is...
Somebody not so special.
Yeah.
I've been here before many times. My name is Ned, and we're back with another one, my friends.
It's always good to have you on, always good.
Mm-hmm.
A lot has happened since even just the last recording, not just with you, but with anybody. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in turmoil.
Yeah, you could say that. Okay, so...
Chaos reigns.
I don't remember exactly where we left off last time, but I think it was something along the lines of us discussing the ban list.
Yes.
The ban list,
and
was it the aftermath or before it occurred?
It was before.
Before it occurred.
We were discussing what we wanted, and we were talking about Merly ban, this, that.
Yes,
I was very wrong about what they were going to do. Yeah.
I was very wrong as well.
Mm-hmm.
I did kind of foresee the elf ban, but before we go anywhere else and too deep into this, fuck tier limit. Sorry.
But some people, I was talking to some people about this ban list, especially some less Yu-Gi-Oh folk, and I'm trying to explain to them what happened, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so there was this tier 0 deck, right? Yeah. The very, very, very good, with like two main components, the tiers and the Ishizus. They limited every Ishizu and basically every tier, and they banned the best tier card. Like, every card you can think of that was in the namesake of the deck, Ishizu tier. The only card that doesn't have a marker on it anymore is Rhino Heart, Rukalos, and
Perlino.
I guess Perlino too, and Kaleido Heart.
It technically has tournament in its text.
Other than that, they all have, all of the old ones have a mark on them of some sort. Yeah. It's pretty, and a pretty, what is the word, prolific hit to the deck. Yeah, everything got hit.
Everything got hit. Definitely sends echoes of the crucifixion list that happened when Dragon Rulers were like at full power. This is of the same nature. It really, like MBT's words straight out of the book. We got Dragon Rulered. We actually just got Dragon Rulered. Yeah, and honestly, I was like, I love Dragon Rulers. I did not like tier. Like, which people would debate is like, okay, they're basically the same thing. In their prime, they were like the same thing. But honestly, like, it's just aesthetics then. Like, Dragon Rulers look cool. Tier elements for little girls. I just was not into that.
You know what? I understand that. I appreciate the owning up to the fact that is the case, but I do think there is a distinct difference, which is that in Dragon Ruler was a 2-deck format, even though the second deck was arguably more annoying. Most people want to debate
that it was a 2-deck format. I do not think so.
You don't think that?
I do not think so. When you got to the top tables of play against Dragon Rulers, you only saw Dragon Rulers. Maybe you saw the one odd
you still had to
or
put
two spellbook
side deck cards in to not lose the spellbook, though.
Yeah,
Whereas you could realistically not side for anything other than tier and be fine.
I guess that doesn't lead us to the side deck talk in like the tier 0 formats. Tier was definitely one of those decks that, like, even if I side this card in, it's not gonna win me the game. Now, sometimes, like, let's say if you sided in your Soul Drain against Dragon Ruler, for instance, it would work, it would pan out, but they had ways of defeating it. Like, they had Blaster. They had other cards that could actually just get rid of that card and make sure that it didn't really bother you. So I would want to argue that they were of the same nature. But I'd say... let's move on beyond that and talk more about this ban list.
From very different eras. Anyway, this ban list. So, the quick recap is they banned Kit, they limited all of the ones that fusion summon, they limited all these Shizu cards, they banned Elf, and they banned Barrier Statue.
I almost forgot about Barrier Statue.
Yeah, okay. I continuously forgot about Barrier Statue.
Barrier Statue. It's like, oh wait, that card's gone now. Okay,
I'm looking at my Flunder deck and I'm like, wait a second.
Talking about Barrier Statue. Flunder definitely has had to evolve. Some of these evolutions, not of the type that I really wanted to ever see. Like, my friend literally showed me a list in which he was like, man, I came out with the new goo. And he had, like, small worlds in the list and a path to the other Barrier Statues.
People need to be stopped. This needs to end. The violence needs to stop.
It needs to stop.
That was day one. He's not the only one. I know who you're talking about. He thinks he's got the go. He also thought that Adventure Plunder totally Flunder. Adventure Flunder. Yeah, that's one of his gurus.
Yeah. He won a match with that.
He did, which is very funny. The one thing it's not the bear statue isn't nearly as bad at playing adventure cards in it, but the new bear people playing other berry statues, that was day one. People were doing that. There were already meme builds before a berry statue got banned about small worlding to get like Torrent statue of the Torrents to normal summon, which is just, people never give up, never surrender.
They never learn.
Which
never changes.
Which brings me to some of the goofy tier builds that people have been coming up with, which, Draco Sack to make the tokens to make
I know what you're talking about.
Cherubini to dump either Swamp King or Havnus. Which is like, wow, you working really hard for Rukalos. You can just play Solemn Warning. I don't know if you've heard of it. Card called Solemn Warning. It does the better job than Rukalos because it's a counter trap card,
and also it covers more ground than Rukalos.
So people be doing interesting stuff.
There's definitely a lot of cope as far as tournament right now. I feel like the people saying that it's still good, it's still the best deck. It's not the best deck. I'm sorry, it's just not right now. Maybe somebody in the future, like Jesse Cotton or Pack or one of those guys, is going to come up with a spicy build that maybe sets up a new regime. But for the time being, it is not the best deck.
I think the problem is that without Kit, the deck can't be a deck by itself anymore.
No. It's more like an engine.
Maybe, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that in the future, people will post tier 1 or whatever, and they'll be right in the sense that a deck with tier cards in it is tier 1, but I'm near certain that from now on, tier is going to be an engine in other decks.
Like branded.
Yes, for sure, branded. There's definitely going to be a variant of branded that plays some tier cards to help get you an extra fusion summon here or there. Probably going to be some Kashtira players that are playing a couple extra tier names to facilitate some sort of goofy combo.
Something spicy that I also saw was Dark World tier.
Yeah.
In which they integrated like the tier.
It makes a lot of sense.
Tier cards, and they could easily make their big fusion monster. New one, what's it called? It's not Rainbow, it's Grapha. Grapha Fusion.
I know what you're talking about. Yes, the new Grapha Fusion, which already you wanted to play in tier because you could potentially make it with the
Swamp King. Yeah.
And now that you have to play Swamp King to play the tier cards, it's just a natural fit with the Dark World cards.
Yeah.
I also think maybe some sort of danger Dark World tier build makes sense going forward, because you just want to get all those cards out of your hand and cycle through a bunch of guys. So that makes sense. I definitely see that as a deck in the future. I don't particularly see it as being super amazing.
Yeah.
I've been hearing about MBT as of recording this. MBT released a recent video where he predicts what the tier list is going to be roughly, and he thinks that the best deck moving forward will be Branded Bestial.
Branded Bestial. I do think that Branded Bestial has a lot of potential. I see it as being the best deck right now, honestly. Like, it has so much going for it. Okay, first of all, can we just talk about how the Bestials did not get hit at the ban list?
Yes, they were completely untouched.
That was a mistake and a half. First of all, I think they were a mistake in design. They, talking about MVT again, he released a video in which he talked about how these cards could have had like 2,000 less attack and still be as playable. And it's true, but they have 2,000 more attack. And there are 2,500 bodies that can be easily summoned in a game that has dark and light monsters as its biggest playmakers.
And also, I feel like they didn't need to have bonus effects.
No.
Like, even if they were just DD Crows that were huge bodies, that'd be crazy. But the fact that then you can link them off to send something
with Siren
to get a search during the end phase, or the new one that like lets you bounce a special summon monster from the extra deck, something like that.
Baldric.
And I'm like, they did not need. And the guy that lets you Foolish Burial Bestial card. A branded card.
Yeah. Siren.
Which means, so like the fact they're DD Crow that's also a body, that's a huge body, would have been good enough. And then they all have every single one of them, the bonus effect is actually good in the right strategy, which is just insane.
Yeah, they're a design flaw. And eventually I feel like either they're going to get limited or banned. Definitely Magnum would probably in the section of being banned. because that card, I'm sorry, it's just too good.
I think it's going to get limited in the near future.
Probably limited, and then they're going to finally say, they might, like, hit the red button and just ban it outright. Mm-hmm. I feel like they should, because then they're later on, if they limit it, they're not going to ban it. Yeah. It's going to be one of the call by the grave scenarios, or like red ribbon scenarios where like, should we ban this? Should we not? It's a one-off. Do we really need to ban it? It's going to be one of those scenarios.
Well, they have been a bit more voice of the tier hits. They were very aggressive. They just straight up banned Kit and everything else.
Well, that's because it's a deck that should not exist. Because let's imagine this. If tiers just remained unscathed for another few months, they're going to be the reigning champion no questions asked. Castria is definitely going to be there.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're not going to sell product. Did you see how many secret rares there were in the Castria deck?
Isn't it extremely high rarity?
It's extremely high rarity. It's impossible to put together that deck without dropping like $1,000 into it.
It's crazy.
And honestly, like when we were talking about tier being expensive, this is more expensive. This is worse. Way worse. It's almost egregious, I want to say. Like, the heck, man?
Yeah,
you could at least give
cards are insanely expensive. It's wild.
It's wild.
It's wild to pay that much for not even the best deck.
Not even the best deck. I mean, it's going to be there. I feel like it's teetering between being the best deck and the second best deck. But like you said, why am I paying so much for something that's only teetering between being the best deck and not being the best deck?
I like to poke fun when Poke came out.
Yeah.
And the sprite cards were the more expensive strategy than tier for a time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but there was a time.
Yeah.
Even after tier was definitively the better deck.
I don't.
Where?
Okay. Are we talking pre-Darkwing Blast?
No, post-Darkwing Blast.
Okay, post-Darkwing Blast, I would say tier was the better deck.
No.
Not by much, but
after
yes,
tier had definitively proven
Yeah.
that it was, at least by a slim margin, the better deck. Blues were still so wildly expensive. Like, a blue is more expensive than the Paralino.
Yeah, that made
sense. And then all of the other tier cards cost dirt nothing. And the sprite cards, everything else was like $5.
I remember buying my blues like wanting to buy my blues for like 45 each. I found them at a good price.
Tanked after that. It was a little window. It wasn't like a super long time. But personally, before even Darkwing Blast, I was like, oh, this is going to be tier 0 tier for sure.
I mean, if they got good support, then yeah. And a lot of the time you have to like wonder, like, is this archetype going to get good support? Like, just look at Beat Trooper. The first wave was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody thought it was going to be tier 0. Again,
and
like,
it was poo-poo gaga.
And they got like to the second wave, and it was the shittiest fucking wave of support I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, let's pivot to fusions, guys. Everyone knows fusion monsters that don't do anything. Oh man, this crazy combo deck. What if we gave them a towers?
Towers, like
wow.
That's not actually a towers.
Not even as good as towers.
No.
We'll give the what is their name? Oh man, I can't even the goo ones. The Alvaz Lord, the goo people. Crap.
Are you talking about Ice Jades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, Ice Jades, we'll give them a better towers than V-Trooper.
V-Trooper.
I'm like, what? Why?
They goo people. They're glass people.
I don't know what's going on.
They're Jade.
Oh, yeah.
Ice Jade.
You You're right. That's probably what they are.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell what's
probably what they are. It's literally in their name.
Well, theming, they're also water aqua monsters.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
So they could be ice or, I don't know. Maybe they're, triple point water. Just the right temperature to be water, ice, and gaseous all at once.
This debate's literally getting nowhere.
Actually, it's funny, though, that their best combo is, let's make worse skill drain.
Worse skill drain, yeah.
Let's go! Anyway, so back to the current format. One thing, we've talked about how tier is dead. Very good. I think I'm kind of sad because obviously I own tier cards.
Yeah.
And I would have preferred...
I'm not. I'm okay with them being on.
I would have preferred if they just got knocked down to a tier 2 rather than just being an engine. Because now I legitimately don't know how I'm going to play pure tier anymore. I think I'm going to have to throw it in something else.
You're going to have to play branded cards, which most people have access to these cards because they were in a structure deck.
But depends on Depends on what you mean.
Maybe Guardian Chimera. Okay, Guardian Chimera.
They're, unfortunately, branded is not anymore. It's not out of the box playable. You need a bunch of other cards.
Well, most of the cards did get reprinted in the 10s as well, which was opened a lot. And there's like a plethora of those cards available in the market. So it's not as bad as Castra in
it's
any...
definitely not. It's definitely...
In any way.
But it's definitely no budget deck. Let's put it that way.
It isn't a budget... I mean, I feel like you can make budget builds of it.
Oh, you can. But it's...
Like, the only thing that's going to really, like, hurt your pockets is going to be the Bestials, I think.
Well, the Bestials is one thing. Aluber, the Boober of Doober, even the cheapest one is still, I don't know.
$20.
What?
$20,
I think so.
Yeah.
But you need 3 of it. And the problem with the branded, in my estimation of cost, is not... The problem, to my estimation, is not that there's any one card, well, Guardian Chimera, any one card that's hyper expensive. It's just that, like, everything you need to play costs something. It's not like it's commons or anything like that. Everything's like a super or something.
Yeah.
Even some random card you need to play 3 of is going to be $5 a copy. Yeah. So it just adds up. It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's like a small accumulation over time. Because, like you said, there isn't... Well, at this point, there isn't a set that you can just open and you can get all of these cards out of.
Yeah, they were trickled out.
They were trickled out. Like, this is a deck that you put together after buying the structure deck. 3 of them, by the way. Buying the tins.
If you were slowly putting this deck together after having bought the structure deck, I could see you having a great time.
Yeah.
Like, your deck is just slowly keeps getting better and better, and every time, if you're smart about it, you get all the cards for cheap. Mm-hmm. But now that it's posed to be the best deck, now I can only imagine that all the cards are going to absolutely spike in price and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A quick side note on the Bestials. The Bestials are interesting right now, because obviously they were mandatory to play against Tier, right? Mm-hmm. They were absolutely mandatory. You had to play them because they were better than DD Crow. And also, they were just extra copies of DD Crow. Like, you needed every possible answer to Tier you could get in your deck, right? Now, they're in a weirder spot. I'm sure, at first, I thought maybe they wouldn't be good anymore. But in hindsight, there's just too many light and dark monsters. They're always going to be playable. That's the conclusion I've reached, anyway. Mm-hmm. Especially with all the amazing bonus effects they have. Being able to search any dragon during the end phase is just too busted to not play in strategies where that makes sense.
Yeah, it's honestly, like, they're over the top, like we said before. It's definitely a card design that probably should not have ever existed, like, in any capacity. But
it's an interesting change from the standard hand trap, though.
It is definitely an interesting change. It definitely shows how Konami's trying to move away from, like, its, what's called, tribal light and dark decks.
It's weird, though, because... I like that in a way it's light dark hate, and it definitely boosts, or did. It definitely boosted any deck that wasn't light dark, but it also kind of boosted light dark decks.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying. And it means that...
I mean, if your light dark deck wants to get banished a lot, yeah.
I mean, but even like Tier was more than happy to banish extra copies of dark monsters in their graveyard, to slap a Bestial, to make Beatrice, to do whatever else. So, how much that's going to be relevant in the future, I don't know. But, well, allow me to pivot. I think it's interesting that they are... So, the hand trap standard has been Ghost Girls, starting with Effect Baylor, who's not a Ghost Girl, but, you get the idea. It's kind of the predecessor to the series that we call the Ghost Girls. And now we're kind of pivoting towards... This is almost more like Gamma, right? Where it summons itself and it has...
You get a body.
Extra utility. You get rewarded for using it. But it's a bit more restrictive. Gamma's restrictions obviously have to play Garnet and you can't control any cards, right? Whereas the Bestials, you have to ban specifically a light or dark monster.
Oh, that's so hard.
It's not hard, but it does mean that its matchup relevance is more limited. Mm-hmm. Like, all of the Ghost Girls, even the worst one, except Dogwood. Dogwood sucks. But even the worst one, you're going to be able to activate it against literally anybody. Like, the only exception I can think is something weird like Flunder. Oh, well, you can't ghost spell any of their cards. Mm. Well, that's Flunder.
Yeah.
But, like, every other strategy you're up against, every single Ghost Girl, except Dogwood, because she sucks, is relevant. Whereas now with Bestial, it's like, well, you know, it's gonna have some application against... Branded, you're going to be able to hit some important cards out of the graveyard. Might be able to stop a Lubellion or something, right? It's going to have application. It's not going to have any application against Kashtira, I don't think, right?
No, not at all.
I mean, maybe you'll be able to summon it if they shifter you. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's not that great. Obviously, they're not good against Flunder.
Well, I've actually, funny enough, I've seen some Castro builds that have just been purging the shifter because they don't need it.
Yeah. I definitely.
They'd rather play Dimensional Fissure or stuff like that. It's stuff that your opponent has to work to have back removal to get rid of.
I don't know enough about the branded deck to know how effective shifter is against it. Can they even make Mirror Jade under it? I don't think so.
Make Mirror Jade under what?
The shifter?
Shifter?
Because, like, that's the lowest impact board they can make is just Mirror Jade pass.
Okay, so if you go shifter, I don't even think you can activate Branded Fusion.
I don't think so.
Or unless it doesn't send for cost. No, wait, no, it doesn't send for cost. To the graveyard.
Whatever.
So you can activate Branded Fusion. You can fuse into Lubellion, and Lubellion activates its effect. Mm-hmm. No, you can still make Mirror Jade.
So is it shuffle from Banished?
Shuffle from Banished.
Okay, yeah. So
you can make Mirror Jade.
You can Mirror Jade pass still. I'm not sure if there are any other cards that goose with in that deck. So the fact that you're right, you can still Mirror Jade pass means it probably isn't that good.
Downside is that Mirror Jade loses a lot of playability under Shifter because it cannot trigger. I mean, wait, can? No, it can trigger the effect to.
Does it send its cost
to destroy
to send the dudes, or do it send it to the graveyard?
I don't
remember.
Even know if
Mirror Jade can
I
activate.
don't remember if he can activate.
No.
I don't think he can. I think he sets its cost.
I think a lot of us, myself included, is going to have to learn what on Earth Branded does now.
Yeah.
Especially I know that Dragon Link was playing like the random Bestial card, the Bestial branded card that does whatever nonsense it does.
Which one? You mean Bestial Rebellion or no?
Well, that's one. That's one card. I mean the
trap.
Branded Beast.
Branded Beast.
The trap.
The trap.
That I don't remember what it does, but every time they activate it, they seem really happy about it. So I'm sure it's good.
Well, I mean, they were playing a small Bestial, like I say small, more like a substantial Bestial package. Yeah. Playing the Levellians, playing the like almost max copies of the Bestials except Saronir. And well, now Baldric as well. They're playing both of the traps, the one that's a DD Crow and the one that's like a pop. And they're also playing Branded Regain, which is the cool spell. That spell is really good for them.
It is really good.
It's really, really good.
Also, nice artwork. I think that Branded Regain is a very nice looking card.
Yeah.
Anyway, just check. You cannot activate Mirror Jade. It does indeed have to send to the graveyard.
To the graveyard.
So, it definitely has some application, but I'm not sure how much against that deck. Also, you can just set up probably like tax, something like that.
Yeah.
Taxman. Also, very funny that
Taxman.
Chain Energy is a really good play.
Yeah.
I also think it's kind of funny that like pre-Pote format in Master Duel, right? What the format they're in right now is kind of very similar to the format we're going into in a weird way.
Yeah, they like have branded. They have Mathmech. They have like
their best deck is branded, arguably Mathmech, but I think it's branded.
No. I'm just saying they have Mathmech.
Yes, well, Mathmech is very good in Master Duel.
Yeah.
Those are those are projected to be very good in this upcoming format.
Yeah.
Mostly branded because it's got a lot more support here, but it's kind of funny. We've kind of looped back onto what's happening in Master Duel. Uh-huh. We've gone back in the past.
Well, we've already gone. I do want to stress something. I want to segue into our little line of Yu-Gi-Oh! Lingo. Mm-hmm. So, we were talking about DD Crow earlier. Yeah. And I think it would be just to kind of like give a description of what we mean by this. So, a DD Crow plays homage to the card itself of its namesake called DD Crow, which is a card that is able to, on activation, be sent to the graveyard as cost and banish a card in your opponent's graveyard by targeting it. Now, in the Bestials are kind of the same as the DD Crow in the aspect that they also need to target the card that they banish. But some other cards that do not specifically target have been called DD Crows in the past. Although, sadly, the only ones I can think of off the top of my head are Aereo, which is a pseudo DD Crow for 3 people.
Some people call that.
Yeah. Also, you have the shifters in, like, what's it called? Shufflers, not shifters. The shufflers of Ishizu cards. They were also called DD Crows at one point.
Anything that's like, I don't want to use the word target because it doesn't necessarily have to target, but anything that is like you get to pick what cards to get rid of out of your opponent's graveyard. People like to refer to that as a DD Crow.
It is a DD Crow.
Because for a long time, DD Crow was like the only card that did that.
Yeah. And it was very unique in that sense, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And very good.
Yep.
I'm sure our
Cycle
viewers
Leader.
have watched the Prague episode that went up recently, where DD Crow was like one of the only ways to stop Frog FTK.
Yeah.
So it's had application for a really long time. It's been a very important card. One of the first hand traps as well.
Yeah.
Which we've already discussed.
Predecessor to hand traps, yes.
I think it is a hand trap.
Yeah.
Hand traps. People like to pretend that hand traps are like a quote unquote new part of the game.
Karibo existed since
exactly.
inception.
Hand traps have been a part of this game forever.
Yeah.
It's just that they were a lot less good.
Yes.
It's just that they're getting better and better. They're making better and better hand traps as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bestial is definitely very interesting. Okay. Let's talk about...
Moving on.
I want to talk about Elf. So...
Well, I mean, we were talking about Master Duel, so I actually wanted to talk about the new Master Circuit before we move on. So,
yes.
Master Circuit is looking very promising.
I agree.
I watched the MBT stream over Master Circuit, and dude, I love the changes. Mm-hmm. I love it's like its own thing right within Master Duel. It has its own ban list, if I remember correctly, or no?
I don't think
Does
so.
it? Or like it has like its rule set or something like that. It's still a best of 1, right?
No,
it's a best of 3.
I think it's the
lower rounds.
Yeah, the Swiss is best
of 1, and then
but
best
then
of 3.
Top Cut is best of 3 with a certain amount of card side deck, right?
Yeah.
So it is. Yeah, I think it's really cool for several reasons. The first one being people can get to plat with anything.
Yeah.
If you're willing to put in the hours.
Yes.
And so sometimes you look at stuff like Master Duel meta, and you're looking at the decks that they have, and you're like, surely this can't be.
No.
I've been a long proponent. Sword Soul is a good deck and all, but I did not think it was like the best deck in Master Duel.
Yeah.
Despite how
much playability is seen.
Despite how many people are getting high rankings with it and how much representation it has on Master Duel meta, mm-hmm. I was pretty convinced that Sword Soul was not the best deck. And I think that I'm going to take a win here, because in the tournament they held, the Master Circuit Series, it turned out that Branded sweeped it. Branded and Mathmag were pretty definitively the two best decks.
Two best decks, yeah.
Although the Mathmag versions they came up with, pretty wild.
Were so cool.
Bro, the Ignister cards unironically being good is kind of wild.
Dude, the ingenuity that came into those decks was... Oh my god. I am so happy to see this sort of evolution in Master Duel. It also gives hope of it Yu-Gi-Oh maybe finally becoming an esport in a sense, because like I said, the ingenuity that comes into this deck, it's different. It's definitely a breath fresh of air for Master Duel of all places. It's
really cool to see skillful players being skillful. And I don't remember if it's Mount Fuji or who it was exactly. But one of the matches was just absolutely insane. Just the absolutely massive brain plays that were going on the entire time. I could literally see the thing from The Hangover, just the numbers everywhere just coming around. The Mathmech versus Branded matches was absolutely insane.
They were super huge
to the wire. It was incredible.
Dude, it sometimes felt like if I forget to make them pay for... if this had been a real-life event and they had forgotten to make them pay for Masquerade's effect, that would have been game determinative. Yes. The margin was less than 600 life points.
Yeah. For how close that game was. It's absolutely wild.
Oh my God.
And then the Brandon mirror match was very funny because it mildly became Big Guy Beats.
Big Guy Beats.
Apparently that's just a Branded thing.
It really is. I'm not even going to that. I played that deck against people in in the TCG, and it was literally that. It was just I'm gonna beat you with my Mary Jane. No, I'm gonna beat you with my Mary Jane.
If branded against anyone else is this huge, massive brain deck, and then branded versus branded is, I have more attack points.
I summoned my Guardian Chimera first.
Wow. But even then, there was a lot of, even though it kind of turned into a big guy beatdown, the fact that they knew how to navigate, when do I summon my big guy beatdown and stuff like that, is really funny, and it really shows that they really are amazing players of the game.
They're definitely technical players, not people that are... It's not... I know that sounds like I'm bashing on Master Duel players, which I am. But it's not your typical Master Duel player that just gets unranked and decides to I'm gonna I don't know, get all the way to the top with Marensis of all things.
The people who are like, I will play Dinomorphia with every Floodgate known to man, and I am willing to sit through however long it takes to get to Plat. There are just some people who are like that.
There's some people that are still playing Eldritch.
You're right. There are still people out there playing Eldritch.
The Golden Lord.
It's pretty wild.
Talking about Eldritch, dude, what happened to that deck? It just fell off the face. It fell off the face of the earth.
Eldritch is weird. I don't know. I think
it's been power crept.
Yeah. It feels wild to say that the Secret Slayer decks have already been power crept. I think if Block Dragon came back, that deck would still be good. But
Emancipator, I feel like definitely Block Dragon. If it came back, that deck would be so good.
But I'm sure it would. I know it'd be good enough to compete. But I don't even think it'd be tier 0 anymore.
Well, I don't know.
Even though it was so
because they're all Earth. They're a combo deck that matches up very well against the meta deck right now, which is branded.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think that would play to their advantage, yeah.
Yeah, it would definitely play to their advantage, especially since
all
their biggest synchros are
The one thing I have not considered is how would the Vernacells play into it? Because the Vernacells are insane.
They were always cope, I feel.
The Vernacells?
Yeah.
Have you read Vernacells?
Okay, They're wild. You mean Vernacells with an Emancipator? Yeah. Okay, yes, that would be insane.
Yes.
With Block Dragon?
That's something that's never existed before. So maybe with that power boost, if they were able to get 1 or 2 Block Dragon or whatever, they might be able to pull off getting into very high tier.
Has anybody even tried that before, an Emancipator or Vernacells?
I don't know. The fact that they're fairies and you can't summon them from the deck with the little guys is kind of a high risk, high reward thing. So I'm not sure with current builds if it makes much sense. But if you had Block Dragon back, I think that'd be a no-brainer, because Block Dragon not only increases the power level so much, it also just makes the deck infinitely more consistent.
It also makes it so it has recurability. Mm-hmm. And recurability in the level that it's not going to be, how should I put it, outed by the common staples being played right now. Because common staples are like Nibiru, which that deck has an inherent out to in Quakimeru Guardian. Mm-hmm. Other staples would be the Bestials, which do jack diddly freaking shit against a Nerf monster base deck. Yep. It's just a bunch of advantages that I think if some of these decks just got a card or 2 back from the ban list, they would basically usher in a new era. So.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that it would be cool to see some of these non-light dark decks make a comeback, especially. It's kind of sad that Naturia... Naturia that was never that good is now neutered because it really needed the Ishizu cards.
Yeah.
That was a very important part of that strategy to combo with the Vernacells. And now that it's gone, that deck's much worse. So to see what could have been the best Earth deck in a very long time get collateral damage to death is kind of tragic.
I see this in the same nature as I saw the Union Carrier ban back when ABC was playing it. Yes, those decks, or even BFD, those decks were playing it, by those decks, I mean, lower tier decks were playing it as their crutch, as their way of, being able to compete. Mm-hmm. But, the bigger, better meta decks were also playing it, not as a crutch, as a insanely powerful player in their strategy.
It definitely needed to go, and that's the case for both the Ishizu cards and for Union Carrier.
Yeah.
But it is still kind of sad to see these decks never be able to reach.
That's why I feel like we should advocate more for cards that are of the same nature. They're powerful off the ass, but they're very specific on the places where they can be applied. Like if Union Carrier just said, I require a Union monster.
That would have made it infinitely worse, which would have been perfect for...
It would have made it so that it wasn't splashable in every damn strategy, and it would specifically only be played in ABC. If the Ishizu card said, I require there to be at least 3 Earth monsters in the graveyard for my effects to activate.
Speaking of stupid cards that should have never been printed, and if they were printed, should have had a lot more restrictions, let's quickly talk about Elf. Because I want to talk about Elf. Elf being banned, obviously that's a big blow to Sprite and every Sprite variant.
I require 1 Sprite monster in the card and it's fixed. Come on, stop making it generic.
There's so many problems with Sprite. Elf. Elf, I just want to talk about how absolutely busted it is. Because every time you read Elf, you realize it's more crazy. It's just one of those
Monster
cards.
Reborn every turn.
Monster Reborn every turn is the very top of the deep barrel you're climbing down into, which is already insane. Monster Reborn every turn is wild, and it's quick effect. So you can do it in response to cards. You can do it on your opponent's turn to summon whatever you want.
Summon some miscellaneous level 2 monster that's an interruption.
Yeah.
Like they used it in Sprite to summon a Scissors. It's some Scissors that would pop a monster on activation, or they would summon Imperial to get an advantage.
And of course, the boring old just bringing Toad back for another negate.
Yeah.
So already the Monster Reborn effect is absolutely insane. And then you realize that it can be used as material for Gigantic, and suddenly you are like, I can any level, and then you realize its materials are including not even 2 level 2 rank link 2. It's 2 monsters including a level 2 rank link 2. Which means that any deck that was playing a level 2 could just link it off for the Elf, bring back the level 2, overlay them for Gigantic, do full Sprite combo, and then still end on an Elf, right? Which I always thought was stupid, ridiculous. That card should have always had 2 rank link level 2 monsters. That would have made it so much more restrictive, and it still would have been insane. And then the stupidest part to me is Elf, if you just have enough guys, you can just do full combo. Because among that level 2 nonsense that is allowed to be the second material is Link 2. So you can just, if you just have like enough dudes, you can just make a Link 2 and then make Elf. If your opponent has any monster, you can bring it back, and then you can make Gigantic. It's just the fact that that's even possible is so stupid. If you just have enough Link material and your opponent has a monster, you can do full Sprite combo, which just doesn't make any sense. Why is that allowed? You mean monster in the graveyard, why was that allowed? Elf to bring back a Link 2 monster, your opponent has to control a monster? No, of course, that's bad. No one actually tried to do that. Everyone who was playing Elf was doing it because they had a level 2 in their strategy. But especially with modern card design, they really like printing archetypes that have like 1 guy of every level, so that you can't make Xyz as easy or Synchros, whatever, right? So even as far back as like, as soon as the Link era started, like every deck does that. Mm-hmm. Like Goki, Tri-Brigade, Trickstar, like every deck has like a 1 guy of every level. That's just kind of become the standard way they make archetypes. Yeah. So because of that, everyone had a level 2, which means that anyone could link it off with any other monster to make Elf, to bring it back, to make Gigantic, to go through full Sprite combo, which was just so dumb. Even just completely disregarding the fact that Sprite is a very good deck, and banning it obviously helps bring in its power level. To me, the most upsetting thing is just how goofy, how generic Elf was, and how it by itself basically let you flex any deck that has a level 2 monster into full Sprite combo.
Yeah, that was definitely frustrating, especially for me as well. I always thought that it was stupid that for some reason Tearlament could just play Elf because it has Murdy as its level 2. Mm-hmm. Like if they knew, that was honestly like, I feel like that was the fall of Konami right there. It's like, if you know you have a very powerful playmaker coming out in Pote that focuses around level 2s, why would you give its Nemesis deck a level 2 too? You could have just skipped the 2. You could have gone straight from 1 to 3 to 4 and just skipped the 2 overall. Make sure that it was never there.
I do wonder what on earth was going on in their meetings. Because they had to be thinking, oh, we are intentionally, insanely power creeping the game. Because I refuse to believe they didn't understand how absolutely ridiculous the cards they were printing were.
No.
I refuse to believe
This is literally Duelist Alliance level of difference. Yes, Pote was the modern Duelist Alliance, I want to say.
Yes, it is definitely distinctly changing the direction of the game, and they have massively increased the power level to achieve that, which is just, I refuse to believe that was not their intention.
No, that was definitely intended.
But it kind of feels weird because they absolutely, that ban list, it kind of feels like they accidentally overdid it. Like they knew that this was going to be the next Duelist Alliance. They power creeped the heck out of the game. And then they walk it back on the ban list. Like they didn't realize how bad it was going to be.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild. So I don't know what's going on at Konami HQ. Be very interested to know what happened.
Yeah. It's, like you said, very weird as far as guessing what the heck happened in Konami HQ, because these decks that came out in Pote, like you said, were definitely a step above everything else that was currently being played in the game. It was revolutionary completely. But then the next sets, Darkwind Blast was support for this revolution, and you could argue that Mama was as well, in a sense, but it was mostly just for tier. Now we're on the next core set, which is Photon Hypernova, and it feels like we took a step back from that. It feels like we didn't go in that direction of we're going to continue power creeping. It's still a power creep in some sense, but it's more
it's nothing to the magnitude.
No.
I don't know. It's kind of, I feel like they're trying to change the game to be even more hand trappy, which is an interesting decision. I'm not going to say it's necessarily bad. Because I did personally have a lot of fun with tier mirror matches and having the Havness and having the Bastille. I've long thought that one of the interesting things about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the quote-unquote shared turn with hand traps, which I know a lot of people despise, but it seems like that's the direction that the game is moving, and especially now it has accelerated. Now that even just a deck, just one of its cards will just also be a hand trap is kind of the standard now.
Yeah.
Because the Bastiles in Branded specifically, even if they weren't quick effect on your opponent's turn, you'd probably still play them. Just because Saranir specifically is so good and stuff like that. But they're just also hand traps, which I feel like is the direction. If I were to put a name to this new direction that the game is going, I'd say we're going into archetypal hand traps.
Archetypal hand traps, yes. Yeah. It does feel like we're going
Archetype hand traps. I think that's the direction.
Just look at the, what's it called? The retrains of the old, really old, normal monsters that were revealed for, dinosaur support. I forgot, Trents and Drakes, I think that's their name. Mm-hmm. They have, their main playmaker is a hand trap.
Yeah.
It's a literal hand trap. It says during your opponent's turn specifically, pop 2 monsters in your hand. It's what's it say? It's what are they called? It's a
I don't know what dinosaur specifically it was, if that's what you're asking.
No. I'm thinking of not rulers. No. The guys that pop 2 of the same action. True Kings, yes.
It's a quick effect True King.
It's a quick effect True King.
Yes.
That pops 2 dinos in your hand. Petite Pteranodon, Baby Ceratosaurus. And summons itself into the field. Uh-huh. Now, let's say you do pop a baby and the Petite Pteranodon and the Baby Ceratosaurus, you get a search out of Oviraptor, and you get a Pankratops or an Overact. Overtext Scuttler, you need to summon it by another effect. But you get a Pankratops.
Some crazy dudes.
Yeah. You get to summon some crazy dudes. And it's wait, why?
I agree. Speaking of that dinosaur, crazy stuff going on for them.
Okay, I just like how they're all, all the big Transcendrakes, they're retrains of really old normal monsters.
Yeah,
old
it's
vanillas.
very funny.
Frostosaurus got its retrain, and it looks so cool.
Yeah, and they actually try to keep it a little lore consistent where you can actually make it with the guy that it's supposed to be, right?
And then it's, what's the new searcher spell? Xeno something?
Oh, it's wild.
Ground Xeno.
Yeah.
Ground Xeno.
Uh-huh.
That's such a cool
what
name.
if we had Rhoda that was also popped a baby?
Pop the baby.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, they had Stratos that also popped a baby. That wasn't good enough. Let's give them Rhoda that also pops a baby. That's going to fix
By
it.
the way, we mean baby as in baby Ceratosaurus, not like Geneva Convention war crimes.
You don't know. I mean, they're dinosaurs. This is before the Geneva Convention.
You're right.
They can get away with popping babies.
Popping babies.
Okay,
enough said that.
With the meta shakeup, though, especially with these Ishizu cards being limited, I think it has really broadened the metagame.
Mm.
So, even if Branded is like undisputed best deck, which is possible, although I think unlikely, the tier 2 is so much wider, right? The amount of decks that can compete now is absolutely through the roof.
Now, MBT might start like crying about this and going like, "Oh no, I got floodgated by this tier 2 deck now." It's like, I mean, you're still gonna get floodgated before. Like the winning strategy for tier 2 decks has always been like, I'm gonna floodgate you in some way or aspect out of the game. Like Drytron, it's currently having its re-rise to power right now. In a way,
This is all a
I've seen
mistake.
people like play with the new card Dynamon, and like I am one of them. Where I just summon Dark Magician of Chaos Max. I don't remember if that's the actual name.
Yeah, I know
I think
you're
it's
talking about that.
it's something else. I know for sure. But you just basically BFD your opponent with that.
Drytron. It was all a mistake. Everything was a mistake. We should change. We should revert the ban list just to keep Drytron from being playable. Yes, or just ban Alpha. There you go. Yeah,
Ban Alpha.
Drytron,
The original name of the card.
Drytron ban forever. Woo!
You know that was its original name, right? Like
What?
it was called Ban Alpha.
That's
Ban
funny.
Alpha. Yeah.
That's very fun.
Like in the OCG.
One of the Ancient Fairy coming back. That was another thing that happened on the ban list. I think that's going to be cool because that means that ABC is going to be a thing again. I'm not sure exactly how good it'll be, but I think it'll be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe tier 2, lowest tier 3, I feel like. Because they've got Therions, get the Regulix. Now they're going to be able to Destrudo at 3. So it's really easy for them to get to
talking about the
Ancient
Strudo,
Fairy.
Ancient Fairy Dragon, yeah.
So now Ancient Fairy... Suddenly, field spell .dex can be a thing again.
It can be a thing again. Yo, maybe we see, what's his face? FA make a comeback. No, I doubt it.
It's not going to be good. But I'm sure the FA players are really hyped about this.
Oh, yeah, they're rejoicing right now.
I'm sure they're very
FA
happy.
players, you got your Ancient Fairy Dragon back. Hey, rejoice.
Speaking of Regulux, why is he still so expensive? It's like $40.
People were
Wow.
like, yo, this is going to be the new Playmaker index. Like, everybody, like, start buying Regulexes off the ass. I still have my playset from, like, when I wanted to play ABC Therions. Post Dimension Force. I don't know about any of you people over there. Yeah, you plebeians cry about not being able to buy your Regulexes. I have mine.
I feel like any market experts in the comments, please sound off. It used to be that, the expensive cards were the cards that were good in the current metagame, expected to be good in the next metagame, or some sort of collector card, right? Or maybe like weird, didn't get a reprint kind of stuff. And I feel like that's how it used to be. And nowadays, I feel like cards just kind of stay expensive for some reason. Like, the adventure cards, not good. Even with this, like, reset of the format that's happened, I don't think the adventure cards are going to be that good. And yet, Artemis Seers are still like, well, they were still like $40. I think they're more expensive now.
Yeah.
That strategy is still expensive as the Regulux. Even though Regulux is going to be okay, it's not going to be, like, good in the upcoming format.
With the Artemis Seers is that people are trying to jam Adventure Engine into Kashtira to keep themselves from losing to the Nibiru. It's working. and it's good enough for them to make the price skyrocket into oblivion, like as if that deck wasn't already expensive.
I don't know, man.
On that note, I'm just really like bummed out at the fact that I could not build Castro. I wanted to build that deck because they look cool. And like, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, and I'm talking to you, the crowd, as well. I just really like cards that look cool. That's why I liked playing this game. I really like looking at monsters that had awesome design and epic looking like weapons and whatnot. And Castro was one of those decks for me. Like, I wanted to play that deck, and I cannot because it's way too overpriced.
They definitely
they had like 3 secret rares, all which were pivotal cards in the deck. And the rest were ultras, and I think one of them was a common, and the only common was like, what was it? I forgot the name.
Is it the level 7, the water one?
No, it was the Scareclaw Castro, which like maybe you play it. Mm-hmm. Maybe you play it, maybe you don't. It was just like such a big disappointment. I really wanted to play that deck, but I can't. Like, even if the deck had still been somewhat expensive, but if it hadn't reached like the 1,000 level, if it had reached like the 200 level, I would have bought it because it's a deck that I wanted to play. I can't.
Yeah, I feel like we have really lost a lot of the cool decks, a lot of the cool aesthetics.
Yeah,
just to go in the anime direction. Because like if we think the tiers, they're just anime. The branded cards, like some of them are kind of cool looking, but it's still very anime.
Yeah.
And I know that's not your aesthetic.
Yeah, aesthetic. No.
I feel like you liked ABC.
I liked ABC. I like my machine.
I think everyone loved ABC. ABC was just cool.
ABC was just so cool. Like, you just think about it. It's like a mini Megazord just being put together. It's a mini Megazord.
Yeah. Well. Yeah,
that's why Super Quantos were also pretty cool because they were literal Megazords.
Super Quantos were really cool because they were copying Power Rangers, but they kind of gave it a unique aesthetic a little bit. They tweaked it just enough where it kind of felt like its own thing.
They didn't have a villain. I feel like they should have had a villain. Like
a villain?
An enemy, like an enemy archetype. That would have been cool.
I would love some Super Quant support. Why not?
I would want some good Super Quant support. Okay,
I don't know what it would do, but
maybe more abilities for them to like. One card exceeds like, I don't know, like Zodiacs.
Well, as I've said before, I really want more decks that aren't necessarily good, but are very competent at doing their thing. So even if I'd be totally chill with that deck still sucking, but just very, very consistently being able to make King of the Computer.
King Great Magnus.
Because that's not necessarily auto wins you the game. Especially since you lose to every conceivable hand trap. On
people
the way.
Were like at one point, people were literally jamming Dreadnought, the like rank 4 monster that allows you to go into like cheat out rank 12 monsters, just so that they could make Super Quantum King. And it's because that card was still a playmaker for like up to this point. Like, that card its design is ahead of its time. It not only was it a towers, but it was a towers that could do something. Which that's usually what towers are missing. Like, they just sit there, they do nothing.
Yeah, they own it, but Super
they only attack.
Let's just read over him real quick for those who don't know.
Yeah.
First of all, rank 12, but that's not how you usually summon him. Super Quantal Mech King Great Magnus. A lot of people call him King of the Computer. Probably MBT probably an MBT thing. Yeah. 3,600 attack points, 3,200 defense points. So he's just massive, light machine.
Unaffected by card effects except Super Quant.
So you could make him with 3 level tells, but no one does that. You make him with the Super Quant cards. They have a way to get around it. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 3 Super Quantal Mech Beast Xyz monsters, so it even floats, with different names. This card gains these effects based on the number of materials, 2+. Once per turn during either player's main phase, you can detach a material, shuffle a card on the field into the deck. So quick effect. Removal. And it doesn't even target.
It doesn't target.
4 or more, it is unaffected by card effects. So there you go. Now you have your towers. And 6 or more, your opponent cannot add cards from the deck to the hand. So it's also mistake.
Unaffected mistake.
So if they could consistently make a 4+, dude, I would not be mad at all, especially because you can just cough.
I mean, you need to make it 7 so that it's like good. And some of the Super Quanto cards add more material to the card. They're just not very good. Now, if you added some more Super Quanto cards that were good at adding more material to this guy, and also, like, on top of that, maybe giving it some extra benefits, I think that would be so cool. And it would be on theme because, like, it's Power Rangers. Like, they have new other gadgets that they can attach to their mecha to make it stronger.
Proposition to Scarlon, who has a series on his channel. I think, I don't remember what it's called. But he brings people on to make one custom card to try to fix their rogue archetype and make it viable, and then they play with it and match whatever. Proposition: bring on not either of us because I don't think we're a super quant. Find a super quant person and bring them on. I'm very curious to see what a super quant person thinks would be the card to really improve that strategy. Although I agree, again, I'm not saying tier 1. I don't want to actually have to worry about facing the computer on a regular basis. But if they are able to consistently make the computer, I'm not going to complain.
Yo, give us the Black Ranger in a good link.
The link they have now kind of sucks, doesn't it?
The link was a big disappointment.
It's a link 3, which is already
like it's supposed to be an upgrade to King Great Magnus, which is not. It's just not. But basically lore-wise, it was supposed to be like King Great Magnus combined with the white layer, which like it's the white mecha, and becomes that, and it's worse than King Great Magnus. Like it makes no sense. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, there's definitely no Great King Magnus.
It is not.
Definitely not. Well, and it's just Neo Super Quantum Met King Blaster Magna. So yeah, it's literally just supposed to be an upgrade, and it's just strictly worse.
Yeah.
Gotta love that. Card design. Gotta love it.
Yep.
Anyway, I do think we need more cool strategies, more cool decks that have just cool art.
Yeah.
Instead of all of this cute girl anime style stuff that we've been in. Which I don't dislike, but I do think one of the really cool things about Yu-Gi-Oh! One of the really cool things about Yu-Gi-Oh! And this is something that I've listened to people talk about, like what to do when you're making a card game. And they always talk about having this like unified art style. Yeah. The fact that Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have that, I think is really cool.
It's really cool, yeah. I think that's okay. Like, dude, if you come in with like your fluffy, cute little monster deck like Vernisov and just beat the living crap out of like a big dinosaurs, that's funny. That's funny as hell. You just beat people's teeth in with like a Fogo or something like that.
I'll never get over how cool the flavor for the Suship archetype is. It's just so good. And then, yes, every young woman looks at the like Melfi cards and falls in love. You know, because they're just cute. Absolutely adorable.
Adorable. They're just so cute.
I don't know whoever they got to do that. Props to you. You make those pastels really work for you.
Very well. Very, very well.
So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really cool in the fact that there can be such a breadth of art styles, but they're kind of been over time kind of converging on this anime style that I don't think really plays to what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is about. Yeah, I think it's cool because
it has a lot to do with like them trying to make storylines out of their archetypes.
I like that.
That's cool, but like there's no need to like make everything into a, I don't know, anime girl or something like that.
Everything has to be part of the story.
The story, yeah.
Which I think is a thing. And also, if you're going to put all that work into making your cool, overarching story so cool, make it a show or something.
Yeah.
Please! Konami! Do something with it!
The branded storyline is pretty interesting, honestly. Yeah, I like it, and I feel like people on the outside might enjoy it as well if they just made it into a show. But moving aside from that, can't we just have Rescuers be good? That's another deck I wanted to play, and it's so garbage that it's unplayable.
It is so poo-poo caca. It is
like,
so bad.
It could not get another decent trap. If it just got one more decent trap, it would be good enough. But it didn't. So, alas, we're stuck with only an Imperm.
Well, I think I want to wrap up by, you talked about the branded, the Bastille, that
Branded Bastille
story.
Yeah.
This is a little unrelated, but it reminded me of it. There's a clip that is called the most normal NBT clip. And in this clip, he is about to review the new cards, and his wife comes over, and they smooch, and it's all very wholesome. And then he turns back to the page, and he says, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has made gay sex too, I think. Something to that effect.
Wait, what?
Because the new
you said,
a Luber Boober of Duber dude has a very Eldritch alt art reminiscent,
wow,
sort of appeal to him.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, he's sitting like on a throne, like
yeah, he's sitting on a throne,
and
he's got a look on his face that like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Also, like the only storyline in which the bad guy actually wins.
I think, yeah. I really don't know exactly what's going on, but I do think that the bad guy did win, huh?
Yeah, he's just like, okay, now I reign everything. Now I rule everything in the underworld. I'm so cool. So, okay, so what were all the Swordful deaths for? What were all the Ice Age deaths for? Like,
so he could win.
It's just a bestial. He's just pogging over there. And then,
pogging?
it makes no sense. Okay, the end makes no sense because he's pogging. He's like, yeah, I got all this power. And he's doing nothing with it. Like, he's not sending like his bestial synchro monster to attack Albus and Ecclesias that he ride off into the sun. So he's not doing anything.
Bestial synchro monsters. The jokes will never end.
It's real though. Like,
it is. Yeah, I know.
The bestial is the
that's the problem, Ned. It's real.
The bestial synchro is real.
I don't know. Who knows if the storyline's even over? I think it's technically supposed to be because they're gonna like moving.
It's supposed to be Cartesia and like one of the bestials combined together.
But who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? Who says they have to stop?
Please stop. It's starting to make no sense.
That's why they need to release something for Westerners. Stop posting weird guys in Japanese and never translating it. Give us something, please.
Tell us what's going on.
And make it coherent, please. Much appreciated. Well, it was a pleasure having you on.
It was definitely a pleasure being on. We talked about a myriad of different things, and
as always.
Some of them very weird.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, especially towards the end.
It's a very funny clip.
Yeah.
I wonder if I put it in the end of the podcast, if that'll be, who knows? We'll see. I don't think I'm going to edit. I think that's too much work. But you can look it up. The most normal MBT clip. Very funny. Anyway, we talked about the ban list. We talked about the format moving forward, which is very interesting. Very curious to see how things are going to shake out. Especially the low tier decks. I think that's going to be really interesting to see what floats up to the top. Because there's been that ban list, it's so crazy because of all the stuff that happened at the top end. But even the bottom end, the Ancient Fairy, the Strudos coming off, stuff like that, it's going to really change the game, I think. Mm-hmm. Especially at the local and regional level.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
You said me and you were done.
That's what I gotta say.
Thank you for the kiss. All right. Folks, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has announced Gay Sex 2.